Okay, for those at the blog know this is not a malfunction. For those on the radio, I am here at CPAC, and I am speaking with a pro-life activist from New York. You've been 30 years in the pro-life movement, I believe you said, right?
Well, 30 years full-time, 40 years in activism.
And your first name again?
Chris.
And Chris, actually, now, are you with a particular organization in here?
I run the oldest and largest and busiest of the pregnancy centers, a network of 4 offices in New York City. We've counseled 175,000 girls and women in the last 34 years in New York City, the abortion capital of America.
Now, one of the things I've noticed is that we keep hearing from our friends who are not Catholic that, oh, Catholics don't care about people once the baby is born. And it's my experience from places like Problem Pregnancy in Worcester, Massachusetts, Visitation House, from the Belmont Abbey's Mira Vita program, that is so untrue. What kind of in your own experience, what are the services that you do?
Well, pregnancy centers are the front line in making sure that the mothers get medical care and have a happy and healthy pregnancy. That's first and foremost. I mean, and a lot of the mothers are coming to us in the first trimester. So some of them are in need of housing, but most today, of course, single mothers who are pregnant are generally accepted by their families today.
So it's not like the old days.
They rarely get kicked out of the house because they're pregnant and unwed. You know, and the shotgun weddings are gone. That we rarely see young girls getting married because they got pregnant.
Well, I still tell my boys if they're good enough to sleep with, they're good enough to marry. That's my rule. That's my advice to them.
Well, okay, that's more common in the white, college-educated community, but more than half of our babies are being born outside of marriage today, and most that come into crisis pregnancy centers are to unmarried women.
Now, is it really, for a lot of these women, is it the financial thing that drives them towards abortion?
It's more than that. It's not just the money. Many of them, if you gave them a large sum of money, they still wouldn't want the baby. They don't love the father. They don't have any love for motherhood. They don't fear abortion. They fear a child. A child is an enemy. It's a foreign agent. It's an interference with their life, and it's unfortunately a selfish act to abort when your only thoughts are for yourself.
Well, how do you make the case for life to such women? I mean, you've been doing it for decades now.
Well, you have to accentuate the positive of motherhood and accentuate the negative of an abortion and its side effects. And you have to stand by her and give her support that's lacking in her family.
Now, are these women surprised when they get this support from strangers?
I think so, yes, and then many times they fall in love with the counselors and ask them to baptize or be at the baptism, or they name their children after the counselors, or they get close to those that stand with them.
Now, obviously, over 30 years, you're going to have many successes and many failures as well. Are the successes enough to overcome the disappointment?
Absolutely. We've had over 43,000 saves. So even if I failed for every one in the last years of my life, I can look back to the successes. But
so that's populated. My city is 41,000 people. So you've literally populated my city.
Yeah. Well, when in the same time period, there've been 5 million babies lost in New York City. We have we can never rest on our laurels, and we can always do more. And I come to the pro-life movement with, we must take this movement extremely seriously. We must take life-saving seriously. Pope John Paul II said to us on one of his visits to the United States, "Woe to those who do not succeed in defending life."
And I think that really says it all. If people want to find out more about your particular organization and the work you do, where can they go online and find you?
We have 2 websites, emcfrontline.org and prolifeinterns.com.
So two different websites. Check them out. Give them your support, because this gentleman is one of the people who is fighting on the front lines to save lives, and that's a very holy and blessed thing to have been doing. Thank you.
And I'll be speaking at the keynote speaker at the Visitation House banquet in April.
Oh, in Worcester?
Yes.
Oh, what day is that?
Something like late April.
Oh, depending on my availability, I'm going to have to try and... do you know what day of the week it is?
I think it's a Saturday night, the 3rd or 4th.
I have Saturdays off. If I'm not elsewhere, I think I will try and get there. So you mentioned Visitation House,
and I know Rod Murphy.
Oh, Rob.
Very well.
Rob knows me very well.
We go way back.
You'll have to tell Rob that you saw me here at CPAC.
I will.
And do you know that there's going to be a Catholic Mass here?
No, I didn't.
The very first Catholic Mass
Where?
at CPAC was last year. Do you know where the registration table is for the media downstairs from registration?
Yeah.
There's 2 doors right across from it. The Mass is going to be in one of those doors. I believe it's going to be 4 o'clock on Saturday. I was told by Rob Whitmore, who told me about that.
Just one Mass?
Just one Mass. But last year was the first Mass ever at CPAC. I attended.
I'm going to probably head out before that.
Well, of course, you can hit the Basilica, too, if you get a chance.
Well, do you know that St. Mary's in Old Town has now been named a basilica?
I did not know that.
It's a small basilica. It's one of the smallest in the country, probably the smallest, but it was named for historic reasons. The first still functioning parish in Virginia.
Well, that's something worthwhile to know.
And it's only a 15-minute drive from here.
And by the way, from here is National Harbor in Maryland. Well, that's good to know. So next time people are visiting from our area. Well, thank you so much for both my secular interview that we just completed and this interview. And I look forward to seeing you at Visitation House.
Okay, Pete.
All right. God bless.